Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Steven, and today I'll be talking about the Mandrake Project, the latest solo album from Bruce Dickinson, the lead singer of Iron Maiden. This is I believe, his seventh studio album. It's his first in 19 years. As I said, it's called the Mandrake Project. Loosely, the story is based around Dr. Necropolis, a drug taking, occult obsessed, tattooed 20 something scientist involved in this Mandrake Project. Now, the project is basically harvesting the souls of dying rich people and waiting for them to find a suitable host or a worthy, healthy body for them. There's a comic book, apparently a prequel. I don't have it. I didn't get my Amazon shipment for some unknown reason. It didn't arrive, so I couldn't look at it and read it and give you more on that. So I'm giving you what I can. Listen to it on Spotify a couple of times, and I'll go with my thoughts on this. There's been a big thing about. I've been seeing some reviews of some of it saying this is the greatest album of all time from Bruce Dickinson, and this is the worst album from all time. Now, I think there's a big misunderstanding with this album that may have hurt the listening experience, but this is just my opinion and it's subjective, correct? They've been harping 19 years, 19 years, 19 years. He hasn't been working on it 19 years straight. As we all know, fronting Iron Maiden is a huge undertaking. They do long worldwide tours. He's done albums with Iron Maiden. He hasn't been just sitting at home working on this album. Although he has said he's been working on it since 2014, it hasn't been 2014 straight. We all know there's been tours with Iron Maiden, and there's albums from Iron Maiden, right? Let's get that out of the way. Then we hear the Mandrake Project, the book inside. So everybody thinks now this is a full-fledged concept album. This is going to be like Seventh Son of a Seventh Son from Iron Maiden, and everybody starts going into this. Oh my God, this is like the second coming of a concept album from Iron Maiden. Oh my God, there are a couple of songs that touch on the Mandrake Project, but overall, I'm going to say this is a soundtrack to the 12-part comic series that is coming out. So I wouldn't say a full-fledged concept album. I'm going to say a soundtrack. So that'll hopefully put your expectations in line. Not that the album is bad by any means. In my opinion, I think it's a great album. It's one of those albums that's going to take a few listens to get into. It's a grower. And there's different styles on this album. And it's going to be depending on your mood. So I'll go track by track quickly what I thought of them. Afterglow of Ragnarok, the album opener, the first single, dark and gloomy, great crushing guitars, very reminiscent of Chemical Wedding, album from Bruce Dickinson. Many Doors to Hell is a straight up rocker that reminds me a bit of Scorpions and UFO, a little bit. Rain on the Graves, great guitar playing on here, a very Sabbath like part in the middle of the song that I really enjoy. I didn't expect that. That's the good thing. You don't expect a lot of things happening, and that's one of the treasures of this album. Resurrection Men. I love the beginning, the galloping outlaw spaghetti western intro. Very interesting. I love that. It was really good. Fingers in the Wounds. Kind of a ballad, but not a romantic ballad. I believe it's more about God. So it's not a typical ballad. Piano makes an apparition in there, but it gets a little heavier at the end. Now, of course, this is probably the song that everybody's been talking about. Eternity Has Failed, which is the remake from the Iron Maiden album Book of Souls, or a different take on it, or a reworking, whichever you want to say. I believe the song is called "If Eternity Should Fail" is off Book of Souls from Iron Maiden, which was my favorite song off that album, and becomes my favorite song off here, even though it is altered. It's not exactly the same, but a great song nonetheless. Mistress of Mercy is a great slab of metal with a great, great infectious hook. I really like this song. This is where I think people kind of get taken aback by this album. This is the last three songs is where Bruce Dickinson shows vulnerability, his more human side, and I think it's a great part of the album because it's so different than what we come to know. He's not just screaming and showing his vocal abilities. And he sounds great on this album for 65 years old. He sounds like 30, 40, in his peak in the 80s, somewhere in time. He sounds that good on this in the studio. Some people say live he has his limited. Here I can't say a word. Perfection in his vocal delivery on all the tracks, I believe. Maybe the last one, Sonata Immortal Beloved, there is a little bit he's struggling a tiny bit on that, but still an overall nice ending to the album. It's an over 9 minute long song. Great, love it. Face in the Mirror is a kind of acoustic ballad a little bit. And Shadow of the God starts off with piano and guitar. It's like a ballad and again gets heavier at the end. And then Sonata Immortal Beloved is another juggernaut album closer, I think, but it's a ballad. They're slower and they're more dramatic in theme and in feeling, more instrumentation, a more delicate subject matter. Um, they're slower, and it shows a vulnerability to him, and I think that's maybe taking some people aback. But it just shows his growth as a singer and songwriter, and that what makes the album interesting for me is that different take from Bruce. So I can see people not liking those last three songs, and that it's going to be a hard listen for some people who are strictly into the metal and up the irons Bruce. Um, and that's okay. Like I said, you have your every right to like whatever style that you like from Bruce Dickinson. I just thought this was a refreshing take. I'm not going to say this is his best solo album. It's one of those albums that's going to grow on you. It's one of those albums that you have to be in a certain mood to listen to, especially if you want to listen to the whole thing. Because some people might remove the last three tracks and let the rest go. You know what I mean? And some people may just listen to the last three tracks saying, I've never heard Bruce like this. And it's refreshing. May not be what you expect, but that's the refreshing part of it. It's not giving you exactly what you want all the time. It's cool. It's something else, right? And I said that's him maturing as a singer and a songwriter. He can tackle these different styles and show a different side to him. And that's what I like about this album. It's different. It's not exactly what we thought. Like I said, it's not a full-fledged concept album. And no, he has not been working on this 19 years straight so that people are thinking this is going to be the greatest rock record of all time. Like that Guns N' Roses album that, we waited for years for. Chinese Democracy. This is nothing like that. We all know that he's done tours with Iron Maiden and albums, and that takes away a long chunk of his time away. And I believe he did a circuit where he spoke about his life and all this. He had this thing that he did a while too. So he hasn't been just sitting at home working on this album. So I hope that puts it in perspective. I know that's what I did to bring down. Some people were saying, like I said, I was reading the reviews and seeing the worst album ever to the greatest thing. So I kind of said, okay, let's step back and let's, because I read somewhere said, oh, 19 years. I mean, it's going to be the perfect album, and it wasn't. No, of course not, because it wasn't 19 years. Actually, it's 19 years between albums, yes, but again, not 19 years straight working on it. So I hope this helps you understand some of the album. I know this is what helped me. I still think it's a solid release from Bruce. I'm going to say 75% of this album works extremely well for me. Maybe the ballads at the end, there are going to be days I will struggle with them, and there's going to be days I'm going to like, wow, love it. It's one of those growers and one of those albums that you need to be in a certain mood to appreciate. But nonetheless, it's an enjoyable release, and Bruce Dickinson shows why he's one of the masters in metal today, and still is after all these years in the genre, and that he can still come up something that will surprise you, and that's a great thing to do, listening to music and be surprised. So that's me. That's my take on the Mandrake project. You let me know what you think. What are your favorite tracks? What do you like about this album? What you don't like? Do you think it's a good album? Let me know. Maybe you don't like this album, and that's fair. Everybody has their opinion on it. Like I said, music is subjective, and everybody is going to hear it differently, and everybody has a different stance on it. But I hope you can understand what I was saying about those things. It's not a full-fledged concept album, and he wasn't working 19 years straight on it. Hopefully that brings it more into perspective and you get to enjoy it the way it should be enjoyed, okay? So this is Stephen from the Aroundtable with my thoughts on Bruce Dickinson's Mandrake project.